Hello everyone, and welcome back to our cozy corner of time. Tonight, we're taking a gentle journey through the Jurassic period, uncovering strange habits, soothing facts, and calming moments from a world long forgotten. So now, turn off the lights, slip under your blanket, and close your eyes. Let your imagination drift millions of years into the past, where the earth was warm, the forests ancient, and dinosaurs roamed under starry skies. Take a deep breath in and exhale slowly. Let me know in the comments, where are you listening from? What time is it for you right now? Are you falling asleep, studying, or just relaxing? However you're here, this moment is yours. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this peaceful prehistoric story. Imagine a time over 150 million years ago, in the heart of the Jurassic period. Our story begins in a warm, green valley where giant conifer trees and ancient ferns blanket the land. Dawn is just breaking, and a gentle mist hovers above a quiet lake. The sky is painted in soft shades of purple and pink, as the first light of morning filters through the towering forest canopy. In this peaceful prehistoric morning, we find a gathering of mother dinosaurs at their nesting ground. Near the edge of the lake, the ground is dry and sandy, a perfect place for these dinosaurs to lay their eggs. Here, a kind of dinosaur called Massospondylus has come season after season to build her nest. Massospondylus is an early Jurassic dinosaur, a medium-sized creature with a long neck and tail. She walks on two strong legs, but her arms are slender and help her carefully turn her eggs when needed. She is an omnivore, which means she normally eats leaves, fruits, and sometimes little critters if she finds them. But today, eating is the last thing on her mind. She has a far more important task, watching over her eggs as a new generation is about to hatch. Our mother Massospondylus stands guard over a shallow pit she scooped in the earth weeks ago. Inside this nest are round, leathery eggs about the size of grapefruits, a clutch of precious life, warming under the early sun. There are several other nests nearby, each belonging to another mother of the same species. These dinosaurs nest in a loose colony, where many mothers have laid their eggs close together. In the cool quiet of dawn, you can hear gentle low grunts and cooing sounds as the mothers communicate with each other. They aren't aggressive. Instead, there's a calm sense of shared purpose. Each mother is protecting her own eggs, but being near one another makes them all feel a little safer in number. A light breeze ripples across the lake, carrying the fresh smell of damp earth and sweet fern leaves. Dewdrops sparkle on the ferns and cycads that grow between the nests. Our mother dinosaur blinks her large amber eyes slowly and looks up at the sky, checking that no flying reptiles like pterosaurs are circling overhead. Satisfied that all is safe, she rumbles softly and lowers her head to nudge one of her eggs. She can feel faint movements within. The babies inside are preparing to hatch, and her keen mother's senses tell her the time is near. As the golden sunlight grows brighter, a tiny cracking sound suddenly breaks the silence. The mother Massospondylus perks up and peers down at her nest. One of the eggs is wobbling. A fine network of cracks appears on its surface. It's happening. Her babies are hatching. She lets out a gentle, encouraging grunt. All around the nesting ground, other mothers hear the sound and echo back with low, soothing calls of their own, as if in a chorus, welcoming the new life. The crackling egg finally splits open, and a small, damp dinosaur hatchling pokes its snout out into the world for the very first time. It is an awkward little thing, about the size of a house cat, with big eyes and a tiny stub of a tail. Its skin is soft and light brown, with dark freckled patterns that helped it stay hidden inside the egg. For a moment, the baby stays half in, half out of its eggshell, blinking at the bright new world. It has never felt air on its face before, or seen the blurry shapes of giant trees overhead. Everything is strange and new.
The mother, Massospondylus, watches intently, but she stays calm. With utmost care, she brings her snout closer and gently nudges the eggshell, helping her baby break free.
The little dinosaur lets out a soft squeak, its very first cry. Soon, the baby manages to push itself out. It tumbles onto the soft sand of the nest, still wet from the egg and a bit unsteady on its 4 tiny feet. That's right. Unlike its mother who stands on 2 legs, these hatchlings crawl on all 4s for now. They will change as they grow, but as babies, they move on hands and feet. One after another, the other eggs in the nest begin to hatch as well. The mother dinosaur is now surrounded by 3 little hatchlings, peeping and squeaking. She gives each of them a tender nudge, perhaps even a gentle lick with her tongue to clean off bits of eggshell from their damp skin. The babies are weak and wobbly. One hatches a little later than the rest and seems particularly tired. It just lies in the nest, whimpering softly. The mother responds by curling her long neck around it, shielding it from the cool morning air. She provides a bit of warmth from her own body, and the baby snuggles against her scaly skin, comforted by her heartbeat and heat. It's a heartwarming scene. Under the broad Jurassic sky, turning from pink to blue, these ancient creatures share a moment of tenderness. The other mother dinosaurs nearby are experiencing the same joy. You can imagine tiny heads poking out of eggs in multiple nests, little voices joining the chorus of morning sounds. Some mothers crouch low, using their bodies to guard their hatchlings from any danger and from the chill of the breeze. They might not feed their babies with milk like mammals do, but they protect and watch over them, ensuring they get a safe start in life.
The sun climbs higher, beginning to dry the dew on the plants.
The warmth gives energy to the hatchlings. Our brave little Massospondylus babies start to find their footing. One of them trips over a piece of eggshell and tumbles into its sibling. They make funny squeaking protests, and the mother nudges them apart, gently, as if to say, "Careful now." Another hatchling, the strongest of the trio, actually crawls right up onto its mother's foot, trying to climb her. It doesn't get far. It slides back down into the nest, somersaulting into a clump of soft moss. If dinosaurs could chuckle, this mother might have done so. Instead, she simply observes with calm, patient eyes. All seems idyllic, but this ancient world has its perils. Unknown to the nesting mothers, a small predator has been drawn by the sounds of hatching and the smell of eggs. In the underbrush at the edge of the nesting ground, a lithe, fox-sized, carnivorous dinosaur lies in wait. It's a little 2-legged hunter with sharp teeth and keen eyes. Perhaps something like a Coelophysis or a similar small predator. This little hunter is an opportunist. It normally catches insects, lizards, or tiny animals, but it won't pass up a chance to snatch an unguarded egg or a stray hatchling. With the mothers distracted by their newly hatched babies, the predator creeps closer, yellow eyes fixed on an egg that has rolled a bit away from one nest. The forest seems to hold its breath. A dragonfly skims above the lake, and then zips away, as if sensing the danger. The predator's slender snout pokes out from behind a fern. It steps forward on its hind legs, one slow step at a time, its clawed toes sinking into the damp sand without a sound. Closer and closer it gets, toward the nearest nest, where the mother is busy with 2 hatchlings and hasn't noticed the 3rd egg that rolled aside. The predator's eyes gleam hungrily. It darts its head forward toward the egg and snaps a twig underfoot. In an instant, the spell is broken. The mother, nearest the intruder, lifts her head sharply. She sees the small predator a few paces from her nest. She lets out an alarmed snort and rears up slightly, swinging her tail in warning. The other mothers in the colony respond immediately. A ripple of low growls and hisses spreads through the nesting ground. Each mother stands tall over her nest, heads raised, glaring in the direction of the unwelcome visitor. Our mother Massospondylus, with her 3 new babies, also reacts. She positions herself between the tiny predator and her hatchlings, her throat rumbling with a deep growl. Though Massospondylus is not huge, about 20 feet long, the length of a car, as an adult, she is much larger than the little predator. Especially now, fueled by maternal protectiveness, she can be fearsome. She stomps her foot on the ground, and the impact sends a small tremor through the earth. The hatchlings, sensing their mother's distress, huddle together in the nest and fall silent. The intruding predator realizes it's been caught. It hesitates, suddenly faced with not 1, but half a dozen angry mother dinosaurs encircling it on all sides. It's as if a person accidentally wandered into the middle of a ring of mother elephants defending their calves, a daunting sight indeed. The little hunter emits a nervous chirp and takes a step back. It glances around for any opening to grab a quick meal. But the mothers have formed a united front. One of the largest mothers, a few nests away, even charges forward a couple of steps, roaring and flaring her neck threateningly. That's enough to send the message. The trespassing predator quickly pivots and bolts back into the bushes the way it came, disappearing with a rustle of ferns and a frustrated squeal. For a moment, the mothers remain on alert, their heads raised high and their bodies tense. They listen carefully to ensure the threat is gone. Hearing nothing but the gentle lap of lake water and the distant cry of a bird-like pterosaur above, they gradually relax. One by one, each mother dinosaur returns to her nest, some snorting as if in triumph. A crisis was averted by sticking together. Our mother, Massospondylus, emits a calmer grunt now and lowers her head to check on her hatchlings. The 3 little ones are safe and sound, though one gives a tiny peep of complaint. Perhaps it was jostled during the commotion. The mother touches each hatchling with her snout in reassurance, almost like a kiss. Soon the babies resume their curious explorations of the nest, climbing over their mother's feet and snuffling at bits of eggshell on the ground. By now, the sun is fully up, shining warmly over the Jurassic landscape. The mist has burned away, revealing the far side of the lake, where tall araucaria trees stand like silent giants. The water of the lake sparkles under the sun, and a few ancient turtles can be seen gliding near the surface. This valley is truly alive with sights and sounds. In the trees, primitive cicadas and cricket-like insects begin their daytime songs. A soft, buzzing chorus that adds to the gentle ambience. Occasionally, from across the valley, you might hear the distant bellow of a large dinosaur, perhaps a giant sauropod calling to its herd. But here, at the nesting ground, things remain tranquil. For the rest of the morning, the mother Massospondylus and her peers guard their hatchlings and let them gain strength. The babies won't stray far. They are too small and unsteady. Instead, they nestle against their mother's side or doze under the broad leaves of ferns that ring the nest while the mother keeps a watchful eye. If you could sit with them, you would feel the deep calm of this moment. The air warming pleasantly, the scent of pine-like resin from the conifer trees drifting by, and the soft clucking and cooing noises the mother dinosaurs make as they occasionally communicate with each other or their young. It is nearly midday in our Jurassic story, and life stirs beyond the nesting ground as well. Over the ridge beyond the lake, the sound of heavy footsteps and the rustling of huge forms moving through vegetation signals that we are about to meet some of the true giants of this time. While our Massospondylus mother and her hatchlings bask in the late morning sun, let's quietly leave them to their rest and venture a little farther out, to the open plains where an impressive herd of dinosaurs is on the move. As we walk away from the tranquil lake's edge and crest a low hill dotted with cycads, an expansive scene opens up before us. Golden sunlight floods a broad plain, dotted here and there with groves of primitive trees. The earth vibrates subtly, in a slow rhythm. Thoom, 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 it goes, like distant drum beats. This is the sound of footsteps. Footsteps so large and heavy that they make the ground tremble ever so slightly. We have arrived at a migration path used by some of the largest land animals to ever live, the long-necked sauropods. Stretching across the plain is a herd of enormous sauropod dinosaurs, likely Diplodocus or one of its relatives, moving together in search of fresh foliage to eat. There are 20 or more of them, ranging from towering adults to smaller juveniles. They are truly gentle giants, plant eaters with necks that can reach the tops of trees and tails that sweep the ground behind them. The largest adults are over 80 feet long from nose to tail and as tall as a 2-story house at the shoulder. Despite their size, they step with an almost slow-motion grace, each footfall carefully placed. Close your eyes for a moment and listen. You can hear the deep, low-frequency rumbles these giants occasionally produce. It's not a roar or a bellow in a high tone. It's more like the sound of distant thunder or the lowest notes of a big cello, so deep, you feel it in your chest more than hear it in your ears. These are the calls of the sauropods, communicating with each other. Perhaps they are keeping contact across the herd, saying, "I am here," to their companions. Or perhaps a big male is announcing his presence to rivals and to females alike. Now open your eyes and see them. One great sauropod leads the group, possibly an older matriarch, or simply the most experienced among them, setting the path. She uses her long neck to occasionally sample the wind, maybe smelling water or fresh greens ahead. Around her, a few other large females and their young offspring keep a steady pace. The young ones, small in comparison, though still the size of an elephant, trot to keep up, occasionally frolicking or bumping into each other like playful children. When they do, the nearest adult, maybe their mother or an auntie of the herd, nudges them gently with a huge snout, guiding them back to the group, or scolding them softly with a low grunt. The ground where they walk is trodden into great footprints, some forming natural puddles from recent rains. Within those footprints, you can see life blooming, little frogs hopping out, and dragonflies darting above. Every step these sauropods take literally reshapes the land for smaller creatures. And above, perched on their broad backs, or hitching a ride on their tails, are tiny pterosaur flyers and early bird-like animals flitting about to catch insects stirred up by the herd. As the midday sun beats down, the herd slows near a bend in a shallow river that winds across the plain. The river's banks are lined with tall, slender conifer trees and lush ferns, an inviting oasis of green. The leading sauropods reach the water and begin to drink. They dip their enormous heads down, taking in gallons of water with each gulp, their long necks arching gracefully. Others wade in a bit, submerging their dusty feet and letting the cool water lap against their sides. Some even spray water from their nostrils or flick it up with their mouths, perhaps to wet their dry skin, or maybe just in simple enjoyment. Among this herd, there are also a few big males. You can tell them apart, because they are often a bit larger, with slightly thicker necks or more prominent features on their heads. One such bull sauropod stands a little apart from the main group, watching over them. His skin is a grayish blue, with darker mottled patterns that help him blend into the dappled light of the forest edges, but also catch the eye of any females with a keen gaze. It is the breeding season for these sauropods, and that means rival males keep an eye on each other and on the herd. While most of the herd drinks and rests peacefully, a subtle tension is brewing between two of the bull sauropods. On one side of the river stands the gray-blue patterned male, who seems to consider this herd his own to protect. On the other side, stepping out from behind some trees, another male appears. This newcomer is slightly younger, with a hide of earthy brown and a row of small spiky bumps running along his spine. He has been trailing the herd at a distance, drawn by the scent of females and the hope of challenging the dominant male. The two bulls spot each other, and a silent standoff begins. Both release a low, resonant call, not exactly aggressive yet, but clearly a warning. The sound is immense. You might imagine it like two great foghorns blowing across the land, the vibrations rippling over the surface of the river. The other sauropods pause their drinking and grazing. The young ones huddle a little closer to their mothers. There's a hush among the herd as these two giants decide what to do next. Slowly, the brown male on the far bank wades through the river, water swirling around his massive legs. He lifts his neck high, making himself look as large as possible. The gray-blue male responds in kind, rearing up slightly on his hind legs, an impressive sight as his front feet leave the ground and his body elevates, showcasing his great height and strength. For a moment, both sauropods raise their bodies, balancing on hind limbs and thick tails, standing like colossal pillars facing each other. Then, with a powerful crashing sound, the two males come together. But they do not fight with teeth and claws, like smaller meat-eating dinosaurs might. Instead, these armored giants use their most imposing weapons, their sheer weight, and their long, muscular necks. They engage in what looks like a pushing contest of strength and leverage. Their necks intertwine and press against each other. Each bull tries to topple the other by force and momentum. They grunt and bellow with effort. Their scales rub, and their massive feet gouge into the muddy riverbank as they struggle. This is a true test of might. The rest of the herd watches with what looks like calm interest. Perhaps this is a common ritual in their lives. Some of the females continue chewing lazily on leaves, big dark eyes blinking slowly, while keeping their young safely behind them. They seem to know the two bulls must settle their dispute, and indeed they give them space. Back and forth the giants sway. One moment, the gray-blue male gives a mighty shove, and the brown male stumbles back, splashing water and sending a startled turtle diving underwater. But the brown male regains footing and braces, then lunges forward, using the momentum of his swinging neck like a battering ram, against the other's shoulder. The impact is so heavy that it echoes with a thud. The gray-blue bull lets out a roar of surprise and momentarily loses balance. His front feet slam back to the ground to steady himself. Dust and water droplets fill the sunlit air as they continue this slow, heavyweight duel. Birds take off from the nearby trees, squawking in annoyance at being disturbed. Finally, after several minutes of grappling, it becomes clear who has the advantage. The older, gray-blue male is stronger and more experienced. The younger brown male begins to tire. His blows lack the same force as before, and his breaths come in harsh snorts. Sensing victory, the gray-blue bull pushes forward with a final drive, twisting his neck forcefully against the others and stepping forward with all his weight. With a loud, resonant groan, the brown male yields. He slides backward, sides heaving from the exertion, and then turns his neck away, a gesture of defeat. Slowly, he backs off, splashing through the shallow water to retreat. The confrontation is over. The gray-blue male stands proudly, giving a triumphant call that reverberates across the plain. It's a deep sound, full of power, and it sends small creatures like lizards and mammals scurrying into burrows for cover. The herd seems to relax again. Some of the juveniles let out little trumpeting bleats, excited by the spectacle, but then quickly returning to their playful grazing as calm is restored. The victorious bull approaches the group of females, rumbling softly as if to reassure them that all is well. A few of the large females acknowledge him by lifting their heads and brushing their long necks lightly against his as he passes by. A gesture almost like a hug in dinosaur terms. In the world of these sauropods, dominance is decided by such contests, but it rarely results in serious harm. The vanquished male, after all, is still alive and mostly uninjured, just bruised and damp. He will likely stay at the fringes of the herd or wander off, waiting for another chance in the future, or searching for a different group of dinosaurs where he might find a mate without facing such a strong rival. The midday sun is now high and hot. After the excitement, the herd settles under the partial shade of the trees by the river. Some sauropods fan their huge tails or raise and lower their necks slowly, perhaps catching a slight breeze. The air is filled with a pleasant din, the swish of enormous tails through tall grass, the rustle of leaves as they strip branches of foliage, and the occasional deep rumble from a dinosaur contentedly digesting its meal. Insects buzz around, including prehistoric dragonflies with glimmering wings, and tiny beetles that live in the damp earth of these giants' footprints. One young sauropod, no bigger than a pony, wanders a few yards too far, distracted by a patch of especially tasty-looking ferns. It steps out from the protective circle of the herd, venturing near the forest's edge where sunlight meets shadow. Suddenly, from the corner of the meadow, there is a flash of movement and a glint of sharp teeth. A predator has been watching. It is an Allosaurus, a large, meat-eating dinosaur and one of the top predators of the late Jurassic. This particular Allosaurus is lean from travel, and has been observing the herd from behind bushes, hoping for a chance to grab a stray youngster. With predatory instinct, the Allosaurus dashes out from cover, towards the little sauropod. The ground thunders anew, but this time with the pounding of a carnivore's three-toed feet at full sprint. The young sauropod bleats in alarm, a high-pitched, trumpeting squeal, and in a split second, the peaceful scene erupts into urgency. The nearest adult sauropod, which happens to be the young one's mother, reacts at once. She swings her massive tail with a whoosh of air and steps between her baby and the attacker. The Allosaurus skids to a halt. It's like coming face to face with a living wall. He snaps his jaws in the air, frustrated, as the mother sauropod rears her front half slightly and brings down her feet with a thunderous boom that sends clumps of earth flying. Not only that, but two other adult sauropods nearby join the defense. They trumpet angrily and form a protective semicircle around the threatened youngster. Their combined size is overwhelming. Even a fierce predator like Allosaurus doesn't dare rush into that wall of legs and swinging tails. Realizing that the opportunity for an easy catch is lost, and that he now stands in danger of being stomped or struck by those powerful tails, the Allosaurus lets out a snarl and backs away. He flicks his own tail and stomps in frustration, but wisely decides to retreat into the trees. A full-grown sauropod is simply too much to handle, and these herbivores have shown they will fight back to guard their young. Once the predator disappears, the mother sauropod lowers her head to her trembling youngster. She nudges the little one reassuringly, guiding it back toward the center of the herd with gentle pushes. The others rumble and snort as if discussing the incident among themselves. Gradually, calm returns. A few moments later, it's as if nothing had happened. The giants resume their slow, constant grazing and their lumbering journey across the land. They will move on from the river soon, perhaps to find a grove of tall trees that haven't been eaten clean yet, then eventually to a familiar nesting ground or another water hole. These sauropods travel great distances together, following the cycles of rainy and dry seasons, always in search of abundant food and safe places to raise their young. The sun has begun its descent now, and the light over the plain turns a honey gold. The heat of midday eases into the warmth of late afternoon. We leave the great sauropod herd behind as they march steadily onward, their silhouettes magnificent against the bright sky. As they disappear over the far rise, the sound of their calls and footfalls grows faint. Now, we turn our attention to a quieter corner of this Jurassic world, where a very different kind of dinosaur is about to take center stage. Not far from the open plain lies a grove of thick, prehistoric forest. A mix of evergreen conifer trees and low, palm-like cycads, intermingled with large-leafed ferns that sprawl across the forest floor. A narrow trail, likely made by countless animals coming to drink from the same river, winds into the dusky lit wood. Following this path, we hear new sounds: the creaking of old trees in a mild breeze, the drip of humidity sliding off leaves, and the occasional rustle of something moving slowly through the underbrush. Here in the dappled light and lengthening shadows, a lone Stegosaurus makes his way to a clearing. Stegosaurus is one of the most iconic dinosaurs of the Jurassic, a large plant eater with a row of huge plate-shaped bones standing upright along his back and long, dangerous spikes at the end of his flexible tail. This Stegosaurus is a male, and he's entering his prime. He's about the size of a small bus, perhaps 25 feet from nose to tail, and when he stands with his back erect, The tops of his tallest plates might reach 9 or 10 feet off the ground. Despite his formidable appearance, he moves slowly and deliberately, a peaceful giant most interested in plants, and perhaps in finding a mate. The late afternoon sunlight filters through the trees as the male Stegosaurus steps into the open glade. Dust motes dance in the sunbeams around him. He blinks his round eyes and swings his small, broad head from side to side, scanning and sniffing. His sense of smell catches a familiar and enticing scent. Another Stegosaurus, likely a female, has been here recently. In fact, she is still nearby, just at the edge of the clearing where lush bushes grow. We spot her, a female Stegosaurus, slightly smaller than the male, with a more subdued appearance. Her back plates, though large, are a bit narrower and taller compared to the male's broad, wide plates. This difference isn't just random. It's thought that male and female Stegosaurus might have had differently shaped plates, possibly an example of nature giving males showier features and females more practical ones. For the male, these wide plates could be his way of showing off and saying, "Look how healthy and strong I am." Perhaps he can even flush blood into them to turn them a brighter color during this mating season. In a way, it's as if he can blush across his whole back. Under the warm rays of late sun, the male's plates indeed seem to glow a bit, maybe with subtle oranges or reds, making him look as if he's wearing a row of illuminated sails along his spine. At this moment, the female Stegosaurus is busy browsing, using her beak-like mouth to clip mouthfuls of ferns and low shrubs. She seems unaware of the male at first. Or perhaps she is deliberately pretending not to notice him. The male, however, is keenly aware of her. He takes a few cautious steps into the clearing, his feet thumping softly on the ground and leaving imprints among the wildflowers and horsetail plants. He doesn't want to startle her by rushing in. Instead, he begins his approach in a calm, almost courtly manner. First, he lets out a low call, not loud or roaring, but a deep, resonant hum that vibrates through his throat. It's a bit like the purring of an enormous cat mixed with the distant rumble of thunder. This is a contact call, meant to signal his presence in a gentle way. The female's head perks up. She hears it. We see her flick her thick, pointed tail nervously. The 4 spear-like spikes at its end slice the air harmlessly as she moves it. She's aware a male is nearby now. The male Stegosaurus edges closer, slowly swinging his tail side to side, not in aggression, but as part of a display. The afternoon sun catches the plates on his back, highlighting their broad surfaces and the faint patterning on them. He tilts his body slightly to give the female a clear view of his flank. This shows not only his muscular body, but also his impressive back plates in profile. He wants her to see how large and strong he is. As he circles slowly, he occasionally stops to paw at the ground with a forefoot. He scratches furrows into the dry soil, almost as if preparing a comfortable spot, or demonstrating that this clearing could be a good nesting site in the future. Dust puffs up around his foot, and he trumpets softly again. Suddenly, he whips his tail and strikes a low-hanging branch of a tree at the clearing's edge, making a loud crack and rustle. It's as if he's showing how strong and dangerous his tail can be, a way to impress the female that he can protect her, and any potential babies, from predators or rivals. The sound startles some small creatures. A flock of primitive birds bursts from a nearby bush and flutters away chattering. A little mammal that was foraging in the leaf litter scampers into a burrow. The female Stegosaurus flinches at the sudden commotion, swinging her own tail in reflex. But she doesn't flee. She stands her ground, perhaps intrigued by this display. Everything the male does in this moment is part of a natural ritual, A dance of courtship written by instinct. He likely isn't thinking about it the way a person might. He's following deep impulses. Make yourself look big. Show your strength, yet also show you mean no harm to the female. Now the male Stegosaurus moves even closer, closing the distance until he's only a few paces from the female. He lowers his head and sniffs the ground near her, as if very interested in the plants. But really, he's catching her scent. The female finally responds with more than a glance. She lets out a short huffing sound, somewhat like a giant cow exhaling. It's not aggressive. It's almost as if she's saying, "All right, I know you're there." Encouraged, the male steps alongside her, so they are nearly flank to flank, both facing the same direction. Here you might notice something endearing. The male Stegosaurus, huge and powerful as he is, moves with surprising gentleness when near the object of his affection. He doesn't shove or bite. Instead, he leans slightly and allows his shoulder to touch the female's side in a kind of reptilian nuzzle. She stiffens for a moment at the contact, then relaxes, accepting his touch. The two dinosaurs stand there, side by side in the golden light, their great plates casting overlapping shadows on the ground. They look almost like two fantastical armored boats drifting next to each other.
But our male's challenge isn't over yet. Just as he's beginning to win the female's trust, another sound breaks the moment. The snapping of bushes and a snort from the far side of the clearing. Another Stegosaurus appears, and it's another male. Perhaps he caught wind of the female too, or he heard the calls and commotion of the first male and came to investigate or challenge. This newcomer is slightly smaller, maybe a younger adult. He has a few scratches on his flank, possibly from previous scuffles, and his plates, while large, have some chips and notches, showing he's been through a bit of rough and tumble. With the overconfidence of youth, he swings his spiked tail and strides right into the clearing, aiming to impress the female and warn off the first male at the same time. The female backs away a few steps as she senses the tension rising. The two males now lock eyes, as much as a Stegosaurus can, with eyes on the sides of their heads, but you can feel their focus. They face each other, and the first male's earlier gentleness gives way to a protective stance. He positions himself slightly in front of the female, glaring at his rival. The younger male snorts and tosses his small head, stomping his feet in a show of defiance. For a moment, both swing their tails in wide arcs, the spikes at the ends whooshing threateningly through the air. They sidestep, circle, and try to size each other up. The sound of heavy breath and scraping claws on dirt fills the clearing. Despite the late afternoon sun, a slight chill of anticipation falls over the forest, as even the insects hush, as if aware a confrontation is imminent. Then, with a sudden, harsh cry, the young challenger lunges forward. The two Stegosaurus males clash. They don't bite at each other. Their heads are small and mainly good for cropping plants, not for fighting. Instead, these armored adversaries use their most fearsome weapons, those spiked tails in the bulk of their bodies. Each male turns slightly sideways and swings his powerful tail at the other with all his might. The spikes whistle through the air and then clang. They slam against each other's bony plates with resonant thuds. It's like knights in armor exchanging blows with maces and shields. One spike scrapes across a plate, leaving a white scratch mark on its surface. Another thrust of a tail narrowly misses, swishing through empty air with a whoosh. Our male Stegosaurus fights with determination. He stands his ground, moving strategically to defend the female behind him. The younger foe is fierce, but less precise, swinging wildly in hopes of landing a lucky hit. The ground is torn up by their feet, and dust rises around them as they battle. The surrounding forest echoes with their roars.
deep, trumpeting bellows of anger and effort. At one point, the younger male charges bodily, ramming his shoulder into the older one's side. The impact nearly topples our male, and he lets out a bellow of pain or anger as one of the rival's spikes grazes his hip. Sensing her favored male might be in trouble, the female makes a loud honking squeal, an expression of alarm. The noise encourages our male. He cannot lose this fight if he wants to win his mate and protect her. In a surge of effort, the older male regains his footing and counters. He abruptly changes tactic. Instead of only tail swinging from a distance, he steps in closer. This is risky because it brings him within range of the other spikes too, but it allows him a stronger strike. Before the younger can react, our male Stegosaurus twists his powerful body and swings his tail upward in a fierce arc. The spikes make contact with the rival's thigh in a glancing blow. It's not a deep stab, but it's a solid hit that draws a pained roar from the younger male and leaves a red streak across his scaly hide. Just a superficial cut, but enough to shock him. Staggering from the hit, the challenger retreats a few steps, panting. Our male doesn't relent. He advances head low, hissing and stomping. He swings again and smacks the younger male's shoulder plate so hard that the sound echoes like a hammer hitting a shield. The younger male loses his nerve. With a snort, he turns tail, literally, and bolts back into the tree line, defeated. In his haste, his swinging thagomizer tail accidentally knocks against a small dead tree, which crashes to the ground as he disappears into the foliage, snapping branches in his retreat. The victor, our gallant male Stegosaurus, stands catching his breath in the center of the clearing. His sides heave, and a few new scuffs mar his hide. But he is all right. The thick old scars from previous battles are joined only by minor fresh scrapes. As the dust settles, the forest sounds resume. A few tentative chirps of birds, the rustle of leaves in the breeze, and the constant background buzz of cicadas. The danger has passed. The female Stegosaurus steps forward, cautiously from behind a clump of cycads, where she had taken shelter during the brawl. She approaches the male slowly, sniffing at the air. The male turns his gaze to her. He stands tall and arches his back a bit, as if to say, "I am strong, and I am here." However, he doesn't show any aggression towards her. Instead, his eyes, small as they are on that tiny head, seem calm now. He rumbles softly, a deep murmuring sound. The female comes closer to him, and in a touching gesture, she nudges her head lightly against his thick neck. The male responds by gently resting his neck along hers. The two dinosaurs remain like that for a few moments, necks crossed in an almost affectionate pose. It appears the female has accepted the male's courtship. They begin to forage side by side along the clearing's edge, the male occasionally looking up to keep watch, while the female clips ferns and cycads with her beak, chewing contentedly. Later, they might engage in the final act of their courtship, mating, which would be a careful dance in itself, given the obstacle course of plates and spikes they carry. It must have been a delicate affair for two spiky creatures to come together. But surely these giants found a way, perhaps by aligning themselves just right and moving cautiously. We won't intrude on their most private moment. Instead, we leave them in peace, knowing that soon there may be a nest of large, leathery Stegosaurus eggs hidden in a safe spot in this very forest. And eventually, tiny plated babies tottering around under the watch of their attentive mother. Evening has now truly settled. The sky above the forest clearing is painted in strokes of orange, pink, and purple. A few early stars twinkle in the east, as the daylight slowly fades. Our Jurassic world is transitioning to night, and with it, a whole new cast of creatures prepares to emerge. The air cools slightly, and a pleasant dusk breeze ruffles through the prehistoric trees. In the distance, the volcano on the horizon, silent all day, now emits a faint glow at its peak, reflecting off a few clouds, reminding all creatures of the Earth's inner fire that occasionally lights the night. We bid farewell to the Stegosaurus pair in their tranquil grove and move further into the deepening woods, following a narrow game trail. The forest here grows thicker. Great trunks of araucaria and ginkgo trees twist upward, while the forest floor is tangled with ferns as tall as a person and strange mushrooms and fungi that thrive in the damp undergrowth. In the dim twilight, tiny specks of bioluminescent fungus on fallen logs twinkle like earthbound stars, casting a faint blue-green glow near the ground. This soft light, combined with slivers of moonlight filtering through gaps in the canopy, creates an almost magical atmosphere. We hear the gurgle of a small stream nearby, a welcome sound in the quiet of nightfall. Following it, we come upon a little clearing by the stream's bank. The water flows gently, reflecting the first few stars in the sky. Fireflies dance above it in looping patterns, their bellies blinking softly in the gloom. The smell of damp wood and sweet, blooming cycads hangs in the air. And here, perched on the low branch of an ancient tree overhanging the stream, is one of the Jurassic's delicate wonders, a small, feathered dinosaur, no bigger than a crow, awakening with the onset of night to perform a splendid display. This creature is called Anchiornis, an early bird-like dinosaur that lived in the late Jurassic. By day, it often hides, avoiding larger predators, but as dusk and darkness fall, it becomes more active. Our Anchiornis is a male, and he is a sight to behold even in the low light. His body is covered in downy feathers, simpler than modern bird feathers, but still feathers nonetheless. Most of his plumage is inky black or charcoal gray. But look closely. The tips of his wings have white patches, and atop his head is a tuft of vivid color, a crown of feathers that are a rusty red-orange. In life, he would have looked rather like a tiny woodpecker or magpie, with a splash of fiery red on his head and some white speckles on his wings. The male Anchiornis sits on the branch, his tiny clawed feet gripping the bark. He begins to call out into the warm night air. His call is not a mighty roar at all, but a series of chirps and trills, much like a songbird's tune. It's musical and soothing in its own way, a sparkling little melody that mingles with the babbling of the stream and the creaking of tree frogs hidden in the ferns. He's announcing to any females nearby that he's here and he's ready to impress. Before long, another chirrup answers from deeper in the forest. It might be a female's call, or perhaps a rival male's. At this, our little male Anchiornis perks up his feathers. The red crest on his head stands erect, and he shuffles side to side, preparing to perform. The moon by now has risen, silver and bright, casting a gentle glow in patches across the clearing. And move he does. The Anchiornis suddenly leaps from his branch into the air, flapping his feathered arms. Though he cannot truly fly like a sparrow or a robin, he can glide and flutter with style. He sails across the stream to a rock near the water and lands elegantly. Why did he do this? He's creating a visual spectacle. Under the moonlight, as he glided, his black wings flashed their white patches, a striking contrast that would catch any watchful eye. It's as if he became a little streak of black and white light floating across the gap. A bold move to say, "Look at me." He continues his performance. From the rock, he bounces to the ground and then up again to another low branch, each time flapping and displaying his patterned wings. Now he adds another layer to the show, sound from his own body. He vibrates his feathers to produce a buzzing note and gives sharp clicks with his beak. Many modern birds incorporate such sounds into their dances. Perhaps these early dancers did too. Meanwhile, quietly on a mossy log nearby, a female Anchiornis watches. She is slightly more drab, mostly gray-brown in color, and her crest is smaller and more subdued than the male's bright red crown. This camouflage keeps her safer while nesting and foraging, but tonight she's here to judge the male's performances and choose a partner. Our male knows he has an audience now. He spotted her silhouette in the shadow of a tree and redoubles his efforts. He fans out his tail feathers, and what tail feathers! 4 long, ribbon-like plumes trail from his tail, swaying with each movement. He turns sideways to her and flicks these tail ribbons elegantly, letting them catch the glint of the moon. He also puffs out the feathers on his body to appear a little larger and hops in place, showing off the contrast of his dark body, white wing patches, and that fiery red crest like a tiny dancing flame. He then begins a more elaborate dance along the branch. He hops left and right, bobbing his head and fanning his wings, a lively little prance that never ceases his trilling song. The forest is filled with subtle sounds. The rhythmic scrape of his claws on bark, the soft flutter of his feathers, the increasing tempo of his high-pitched calls. Fireflies weave around him, perhaps drawn by the movement, adding to the enchanting scene by sprinkling points of light around this tiny dancer. At last, the female is convinced. She lifts off from her log and flutters over to the male's branch, landing just a foot or two away from him. The male Anchiornis freezes for a split second, as if pleasantly surprised that his performance worked, then sidles slowly closer to her. He lowers his wings. No need to impress further now. He doesn't want to appear threatening, and instead lets out a sweet, soft, warbling note, a gentle greeting. The female responds with a quiet chirp. The two of them now engage in a more intimate dance. They hop around each other in a tight circle on the branch, like 2 tiny dancers waltzing under the moon. The branch is narrow, but they balance perfectly with their long tails and outstretched wings, helping to keep them steady. Occasionally one nudges the other's beak with their own in a sort of kiss, or they preen each other's neck feathers lightly. This pair-bonding dance will ensure that they trust each other as mates. They might stay together for the rest of the breeding season, perhaps raising a clutch of eggs in a hidden nook of a tree, or in a little nest on the ground, safe among roots and ferns. Both male and female might take turns guarding the eggs, or bringing food to the hatchlings, sharing the work of raising their young. But that will come later. For now, on this gentle night, they are content to sing to each other by the stream and enjoy each other's company in the soft glow of moonlight. We leave the happy Anchiornis pair perched cozily, side by side. Over the forest canopy, the night sky is now in full bloom with stars, more stars than most of us can see today. A shimmering band of the Milky Way, arcing overhead. A crescent moon adds its silver light to the landscape. The air is alive with nighttime aromas, blooming prehistoric plants that release sweet fragrances after dark, damp, mossy earth exuding an earthy perfume, and somewhere, the faint sulfuric whiff of a distant hot spring or volcanic vent. The Jurassic night is anything but silent. Listen carefully, and you'll hear a symphony of nocturnal life. Insects chirr and trill, ancient crickets and katydids rubbing their wings to sing to each other. Some have calls that chirp rhythmically, others make an unbroken buzz like tiny fairy whistles. In the distance, frog-like creatures croak near ponds in low, musical tones. Occasionally, the flutter of wings and a brief screech mark a flying reptile, a small pterosaur, swooping after moths in the dark. These sounds rise and fall in a soothing rhythm, a lullaby from a prehistoric world. But among these gentle sounds comes a low, far-off call that momentarily hushes the smaller creatures. It's a deep, haunting moan that could be mistaken for a gust of wind, except it carries a clear, living tone. This is the call of a big predator, announcing itself in the darkness. A call that belongs to the apex hunter we caught a glimpse of earlier by the sauropod herd, the Allosaurus. A few miles from the stream, where our tiny feathered friends are resting, the forest gives way to more open floodplains and rocky fields. Here and there, half-buried boulders and stunted trees break the landscape. The rocks are warm to the touch, still holding the day's heat, and they emit that warmth into the cooling night air. Wisps of ground mist gather in low hollows, weaving around the bases of thorny shrubs. Under the silvery light of the moon, we see a lone figure moving among the rocks. It is the Allosaurus, perhaps the same one who tried his luck earlier in the day. He failed to secure a meal then, but the night is a better time for such a predator to succeed. He is nearly 30 feet from snout to tail, with powerful hind legs and a massive head lined with dagger-like teeth. Above each eye is a bony crest. Not very large, but in life, it may have been brightly colored or eye-catching. Tonight, those crests catch the moonlight as he lifts his head to call again. A resonant sound that sends tiny lizards scurrying under rocks and birds shuffling in their sleep high in the trees. The Allosaurus's breath mists in front of his jaws as he exhales that long call. It's early spring in this region, so nights are cool enough that his hot breath creates little clouds around his snout. He's not just randomly calling. This is mating season for Allosaurus as well, and he's advertising his presence to any females in range and warning other males to stay away. To our ears, his call is mesmerizing and a bit eerie. It's deep and throaty, rising and then falling off, with a vibrating quality that can be felt through the ground. Perhaps it sounds a little like a distant rumble of thunder, mixed with a whale's moan, but coming from the throat of a great land predator.
The Allosaurus then engages in another curious behavior. He begins to dance in his own heavy way. The Allosaurus stamps his feet on a patch of bare earth between the rocks, dragging his clawed toes to leave long scrape marks in the soil. He moves forward a few steps and does it again, creating a set of parallel grooves in the dirt. Under the moonlight, we can see that he's scratched many such marks in this area, evidence that he has been performing this ritual, perhaps night after night, in the same spot. Why does he do this? By scraping and scuffing the earth, he's making a visual display for any watching female, as if to show, I am strong and energetic. See how I clear this ground. He might also be leaving his scent in the soil from glands in his feet, marking this place as his own. It's a message in multiple ways. After scraping, the Allosaurus stands still in the middle of the marked area. He looks around, turning his big head side to side to listen and watch for any response. The chorus of small night creatures continues around him, seemingly unbothered by his dramatic display.
Satisfied that he has sent his message, he throws his head back and gives another call, shorter this time. More of a series of low grunts that trail into a rumble. This might be his love song of sorts. Not as sweet as the Anchiornis' tune, but in the Allosaurus' world, it could be quite alluring. Luck is with him tonight. From the forest edge, a response echoes softly, a similar low rumbling call, but distinctly from a different voice. A female Allosaurus has heard him and is answering. The male immediately perks up. He stops his display and stands alert, head and tail raised, listening intently. He then begins to walk deliberately toward the source of the call. Not charging wildly, he doesn't want to scare her, but with a confident, almost proud stride. Soon the female emerges from the shadows of the tree line. She is a magnificent creature, slightly smaller than the male but still powerful and imposing. Her hide is dappled in the moonlight, a pattern of dark mossy green and black striping that helped her hide in the jungle by day, now giving her a tiger-like appearance at night. The crests above her eyes are a bit smaller and perhaps a subtler color than a male's might be, but in the silver moonlight, those details are hard to see. What is clear is her body language, cautious but curious. She has come this far in answer to his calls, but she will be careful about her choice. The male lowers his head and approaches in a slow arc rather than directly, showing her he is interested but not aggressive. He rumbles softly as he nears her. A continuous, gentle growl that sounds almost like a giant cat purring. The female Allosaurus responds with a soft huffing bark and stamps one foot. One might think she's annoyed, but she's really testing him. Show me your intentions. In reply, the male does an almost tender thing. Remember how he failed to catch a young sauropod earlier? He went hungry then, but at dusk he managed to find a different meal. The remains of a recently dead herbivore by the riverbank. He dragged a piece of that carcass here and left it nearby, perhaps planning to eat it later or use it as bait. Now he circles toward that hidden morsel and pulls it from under a bush with his jaws. Holding it, he turns back to the female and drops the offering on the ground between them. Then he steps back and lowers his head respectfully, watching her. This is a risky but meaningful gift. Food is precious to a predator, and giving some up is a sign of great willingness to please. Offering food is a strategy some animals use to win over a mate. It appears to work here. The female Allosaurus sniffs the air, clearly catching the scent of fresh meat. She cocks her head slightly and takes a step forward, keeping her amber eyes on the male to ensure it's not a trick. He stays perfectly still, save for a low, reassuring rumble. Satisfied, the female leans down and picks up the chunk of meat. She gulps it down in one smooth motion, tossing her head back so it slides down her throat. It's a small snack for such a large predator, but the gesture itself seems to please her. She emits a low, almost contented growl. Now the distance between them closes. The male and female Allosaurus come within a few feet of one another. They begin a remarkable interaction. They circle each other slowly, noses lowered, sniffing and examining one another's scent. The male's tail sways gently, and the female's arms, small as they are, stretch out and then relax. The male pauses to gently nudge the female's neck with his snout. In response, she lets out a soft, guttural croon and brushes her head lightly along his jawline as she walks past him. Each species, in its own way, shows us that even in a world as ancient and sometimes harsh as the Jurassic, there were moments of tenderness, of ritual, of cooperation, and of devotion to family. These animals, often thought of as fierce or alien, displayed social behaviors and instincts that, in their own fashion, mirror the rhythms we see in animals today. In the rustle of a mother dinosaur shielding her young, or the echoing notes of a little dinosaur's song to his sweetheart, we find a connection across time, a reminder that the desire to find a mate and raise the next generation is a tale as old as life itself. Now the night grows deep, and a gentle rain begins to fall. A light patter of warm droplets that taps on the broad leaves above and dimples the surface of the lake and stream. The sound is soft and soothing, like nature's own lullaby. Our dinosaurs do not panic or run. A warm rain is welcome after the day's heat. In the nesting ground by the lake, the mother Massospondylus carefully curls her tail and body around her sleeping hatchlings to keep them snug and dry, while raindrops bead and roll off her pebbled back. The sauropod herd out on the plain bunches a little closer together, some tilting their long necks upward to feel the cool rain on their skin, others merely flicking their ears as the water runs off their sides. Under the forest canopy, the Stegosaurus pair stands side by side, the male perhaps shuffling a little closer to the female as droplets trickle down the grooves of their plates like tiny streams. The little Anchiornis pair takes shelter under a broad fern frond, huddling close, their feathers puffed up as they wait out the shower. Perhaps they even drift to sleep right there, pressed together like two feathery blossoms under an umbrella. And the Allosaurus partners, deep in the shadows of the woods, lie down together next to a mossy log. The male stretches out and the female rests her head against his strong neck as the rain polishes their dark scales. In all these scenes, there's a sense of peace and trust. Each dinosaur is with a companion or family, feeling secure despite the darkness and the rain. The rain passes as gently as it arrived, leaving the night air fresh and cool. A light mist rises from the warm ground, weaving among the tree trunks and drifting over the quiet lake. One by one, our dinosaur friends slip into slumber. The baby Massospondylus at the nesting ground are tucked safely beside their mother, making tiny snuffling sounds as they breathe. The giant sauropods drowse on their feet, heads bowed and eyes half closed, perhaps dreaming in their own ancient way of endless groves of trees. The Stegosaurus pair, now lying down on a soft bed of ferns and grass, lean gently against each other, their eyes closed, while the night insects sing around them. The little feathered Anchiornis twosome roost side by side on their branch once the rain stops, heads tucked under their wings, looking like two puffballs of soot and cinnamon as they sleep. And the Allosaurus couple, well-fed and content, rest in the darkness. The male's tail is curled loosely around the female's back as they snooze, occasionally rumbling softly in their dreams. In this tranquil final act of the night, we take in the whole Jurassic Valley one last time. It lies under a blanket of twinkling stars and a silver moon, as crickets chirp and a gentle fog softens every shape. It is a lush and beautiful world, full of life and the promise of more life to come with the next dawn. Though these creatures will never know about us, we feel a kinship with them. They too seek comfort, safety, and companionship under the same sky that we gaze upon today. The hours of darkness begin to wane, and a pale glow touches the eastern horizon. The faintest hint of blue appears, announcing the approach of dawn. Our time in the Jurassic is coming full circle, back to morning. Soon, the chorus of daytime creatures will start anew, and the cycle of life, feeding, exploring, courting, protecting, will continue, just as it has for millions of years. For us, however, it's time to gently return from this ancient world of cozy stories and primeval dreams. We leave behind the dinosaurs in their slumbering state, knowing they are safe and content for the moment. In our mind's eye, we tiptoe away from the valley as the sky lightens, carrying with us the sense of calm and wonder that this journey has given. Now, dear listener, as you sit back or lie in your bed, perhaps feeling your own eyes grow heavy, think of the steady patter of Jurassic rain, the lullaby of insects and night birds, and the comforting presence of mother dinosaurs watching over their babies. Think of the gentle giants standing guard, and the tiny—
Let yourself drift off with these ancient, soothing images in your mind.
the forest breeze softly whispering through cycads and conifers, the distant murmur of a dinosaur's breathing, the glitter of stars above a primeval lake. Though the dinosaurs have long since passed into history, in our imagination they live on, sharing with us the peace of their Jurassic night. As the first soft light of a new morning glows in the east, we end our story. The valley will awaken once more, and life will carry on, endless, fascinating, and beautiful. May this tale of dinosaur days and nights bring you peace and gentle dreams. Good night, and sweet dreams from the Jurassic world, where the echoes of love and life carry across time.